gracious sakes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anita Cicero, Deputy Director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, and today I will be your Master of Ceremonies for Event 201. On behalf of our center and our partners, the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to our audience here in New York, as well as our larger virtual audience participating online today.
And we have a wonderful panel to address all of the above, in particular, the global expansion. Joining us right here on stage is Fang Shanghai. He is the Vice Chairman of China's Securities Regulatory Commission, the People's Republic of China.
And before we begin the exercise, I also want to introduce Ryan Morehard, who's lead of the Global Health Security Group, Forum, and the World Economic Forum, and he will say a few words. Ryan.
Thank you, Anita, and good morning, and welcome again on behalf of the Center for Health Security, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the World Economic Forum. Welcome to Event 201. 201. Throughout our session today, I hope that number will represent two dimensions of our work to strengthen global health security. First, today, there are 200 epidemic events every year, and it hasn't always been this way. The number is increasing, driven by globalization, climate change, urbanization, deforestation, and other trends of our modern world. In other words, we're in a new era of epidemic risk.
Hey everybody, it's Everett at Ohio for Freedom, and it's Thursday night, the 30th of December. I said it earlier today, I hope you have all your New Year's resolutions for 2021 in the can, because you ain't got much time left. In fact, you're just about out of time, and this is our last program of the year. So if you got stuff you got to do, get to it. All right, Klaus Schwab, how much influence does he have? How long has he been around? Who's affiliated with him? Does he have a leadership school? Who has attended that leadership school? And what are the ramifications? That's what we're going to talk about. We got a lot to get through tonight, so let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Hey, all right. Hey, I got to say hi to Pierre, Carol, Tyson, Kevin, Pamela, and Karen. And Karen, to answer your question, Karen asked, is this recent? No, it is not, Karen. What I played in the beginning is actually more than 2 years old. Event 201 took place in October of 2019, and how is that relevant to the subject of Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, the author of The Great Reset, and also the author of the slogan Build Back Better that Joe Biden recently failed to implement for now. Anyway, the World Economic Forum was the sponsor of that event, and we're going to get into it, and it's all very, very relevant. But before we do, I want to just make a note about Tuesday night's program. First of all, for everybody that was able to join us on Tuesday night, we really, really appreciate it. If you saw it live, you saw it. If you didn't see it live, you didn't see it, because it got Zuckerberged right away. The reason that it got Zuckerberged is because of things that we said that we never said, which is pretty much par for the course for Facebook. That program was primarily about an interview that Candace Owens just before Christmas conducted with President Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was very pro-hallelujah to the V, and just very much in favor, and had all kind of good things to say. And I followed up with a clip from Alex Jones of InfoWars that is being pretty critical of the president, saying it's time to do an about face, and that was promptly shut down again for things that we didn't say. So I want to just make an announcement, because I am going to talk about the Klaus Schwab School of Leadership tonight. And folks, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but we're going to just scratch the subject. But before we get there, let me say, in the past, when Facebook would take a video down for capricious and arbitrary reasons, I would kind of spend a time being angry and kind of like, what's going on kind of world. That did not happen. I'm grateful to say I'm not really angry. I'm not surprised, but we are very, very determined. And so we, ladies and gentlemen, are going to fight back. This may not be a huge program, but I'd like to think it plays some role of significance in the overall economy of things. And so I just want to let you know what we're going to do. And I'm going to ask your help. I'm going to ask your prayer help and just your good wishes. If you can help us out with any kind of contribution, it would help us with some of the expansion that we're going to. But here is what we're going to do. We're going to expand our StreamYard platform. If we expand our StreamYard platform, we are actually able to simultaneously go out to like 10 different platforms at the same time. I can tell you that one of those will be Getter. We do want to do Odyssey live at the same time if we can. We want to add Rumble to the mix and do that live. But most importantly, I believe of all, is I have been in contact with StreamYard. Bear with me. We're going to get to our subject matter, but this is important going into 2022. And we will be able to stream directly to the OhioForFreedom.com website. And that will actually be very, very cool, because what we will be able to do, ladies and gentlemen, is when we do a program, you can add the platforms that you want to be included on that platform, but we will be able to stream to the website, and then we can pause and dump off a few of the sourpuss sore losers like Zuckerberg and YouTube, and then continue on OhioForFreedom.com. And I can promise you, we are going to have some guests in the very near future, in that we will be discussing some things that the couple of aforementioned platforms just will not be able to handle. And so you will be able to very seamlessly perhaps get introduced to the subject matter. And if it interests you, and I believe it will, you will be able to click on OhioForFreedom.com, and we will be able to continue the conversation, and we can say whatever we want to say. So I'm very, very excited about it. It may take a week or so to kind of work through the implementation and the learning curve aspects of that, but that's what we're going to do. So let me get off of this by saying, please go to OhioForFreedom.com. I think I still have an Omicron story up there on the top, but sign up for our email blast. That is going to be a very, very crucial, because, folks, I think things are heating up. I think the next couple of months in particular are extremely vital. If you have been holding in there, if you have been awake, if you have been standing, and if you're standing, you know what I'm talking about. The time to continue to stand is right now. Your metal's about to be tested, and your metal is about to be rewarded. I really, truly believe that. So please go to OhioForFreedom.com. If you can leave us a contribution of any amount is appreciated, but regardless of that, go and sign up. And I see that Real Life Church is saying, stretch those 10 sticks. So here's how, so having gotten that out of the way, I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys tonight. I want to talk about this Klaus Schwab School of Leadership. And I've got to tell you, my head, just to be completely candid with you, my head is absolutely spinning, because there's just so much information. I believe we'll be able to do more than just scratch the surface, but folks, so many dots will connect. And so I know, though, that as we go through this, when I get done with this program, I'll say, oh man, I didn't say this, I didn't say that. There's no way we can say everything in one program, but I believe some dots are going to connect. So I've got on the screen right now a picture of that handsome young man. Actually not. This is Klaus Schwab. So let me just I'm going to kind of be a little bit chronological here if I can. Let's go back to March of 2020. Here in Ohio, our slow-talking, take 2 hours to say 5 minutes worth of information, Governor Mike DeWine, who is the poster child for the Event 201 playbook, took us into a 2-week lockdown. And I, at the time, was so naive and so good-natured, like many of you. My conscious thought was, I don't really know if this is necessary, but they probably think it's necessary, so I kind of went along with it. By about May of 2020, my personal alarm bells were ringing through the roof. I smelled a rat, and probably so do you. I remember sitting at the kitchen table on a Sunday afternoon, and I just started talking into my phone. Hey, how many people live in, and just choose a state. Every state, Michigan, Ohio, and I'd get the population, and then there was a COVID-19 death website, and like at the time, there was like 5 deaths in the state of Ohio, and yet everything was shut down. You could go to Walmart and buy cheap jewelry, but you couldn't go to the family-owned mom and pop jewelry store and buy anything. And it just didn't make any sense. You could go to Menards and buy patio furniture and hardware, but the locally owned, family-owned Ace Hardware just down the street, you couldn't go to. And so that, for me, is when the alarm bells started to go off, and I started just turning into Captain Research. And I remember running across this Event 201 that was sponsored by the World Economic Forum. And full disclosure, I didn't know who the World Economic Forum was. I had better things to do. And when I first heard that title, I'm thinking they must be a big bank or something like that. Boy, was I naive. But let me put this handsome mug up here on the face again. So Klaus Schwab, who is Klaus Schwab? And please bear with me, folks. And some of this is going to be review, but I promise you as we go through, some dots are going to connect. So Klaus Schwab began the World Economic Forum. It might have had a different name, but it began in 1971, and Klaus Schwab was an engineer. Now, Klaus Schwab was educated in one university in Germany and then another European university, but then he went to Harvard. And at Harvard, one of his instructors was Henry Kissinger. So he was instructed by Henry Kissinger, and it seems that perhaps his influence from Henry Kissinger helped elevate him, because at age 33, he convened what has become the World Economic Forum and was able to gather something like 440 prominent business leaders from around the world, and I forget how many countries, but it was a pretty remarkable feat for such a young man. He seemed to have gotten help from Henry Kissinger, is the implication. So he had globalist overshadowing and oversight from the very, very beginning. So World Economic Forum then, their role in Event 201. I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to play one more clip from Event 201. I got to get out of this. I got to get out of that. I'm going to get out of this. So just bear with me, folks. We're going to get some. We're going to get some a little bit of education here. So where are we at?
The topics and the topics and the pacing of the deliberations will be the same, both online and in the room.
Okay, now I'm going to pause. This is the Master of Ceremonies for Event 201. So let's just do a little review for those of us that can review, and a little bit of an introduction. There's at least some people in the audience that are not familiar with this. This Event 201, it's on YouTube right now. They've never taken it down. They're not going to take it down. They're very, very proud of it. And what it was a tabletop exercise, a war games exercise. It was a planning session for how you handle a pandemic, a worldwide outbreak of coronavirus. In fact, that's what they talked about. And it was convened in New York, and it was sponsored by the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab's organization, and drumroll please, Creep of the Decade, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, so I'm going to play as they're introducing the characters there was like 30 people that made up the pretend panel, the global panel. I'm going to play just the introduction of a few of them, and I'm going to comment on a couple. Here we go.
So, as you can see on the slide, we have an outstanding group of global leaders playing the role of the Pandemic Emergency Board members here in New York. And with that, let's welcome our participants and invite them into the room.
Please listen to these names.
Tom Inglesby from Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. LaToya Abbott, Marriott International, Sophia Borges, UN Foundation, Brad Connett, Henry Schein, Chris Elias, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Oh, my goodness.
Tim Evans, formerly of the World Bank.
World Bank.
George Gao from China CDC.
It's very significant.
Averill Haynes, former Deputy U.S. National Security Advisor.
Okay, there's more people that she introduces, but I'm going to stop right there. Of the people that were in attendance, there were this mock panel of global advisors, how to handle it. The last two that were mentioned was George Gao. George Gao, I believe he still is, but at the time he was China's head of CDC. He was the China CDC director. He is in New York City participating in this. And then who else was involved? The next name that she said, I want to bring her up on the screen. I want to bring her up. The next name that she said was Averill Haynes. And this is really interesting, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if this is big enough, but you can go right to Wikipedia, because I did just a few moments ago. Averill Danica Haynes is an American lawyer and senior government official. Listen, I didn't know this. She is currently serving as the Director of National Intelligence. So who was the guy that had it for President Trump? She took his job. She's the Director of National Intelligence for the faux Biden administration. And previously, she served as Deputy National Security Advisor and Deputy Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. Now, folks, I want you to think about that. This is a war games action. They're going to plan out how everybody in the world has to respond to an outbreak. And so it kind of makes sense that Stephen Redd, was his name, from RCDC was there. That kind of makes sense. George Gao from China CDC, it makes sense, but it's creepy. It's in bad taste. But he was there. But what is Averill Haynes of the CIA doing there? What in the world does the Central Intelligence Agency have to do with planning what happens? What kind of medical background, what kind of medical qualifications does the CIA have? If you go ahead and read that account there in Wikipedia, Averill Haynes, one of the things she was kind of in hot water for during the Obama administration was all the people that they were killing with drone strikes. And so she had to make policy manuals, and it says they would call her in the middle of the night, is it okay to push the button so that we can kill this family or this person there in Afghanistan or whatever part of the... What are they doing there? I just want to pause here for a minute. Why do you have the CDC at anything, or the CIA at anything that has to do with world health? Maybe I need to keep moving here. Let's see what my next slide is, because we got a fair amount of video that we're going to try to get to, and maybe that I've come to an end there. So let's. I want to put things in a little bit of a timetable. When you go to YouTube and watch those, there's 4 segments that are there from Event 201, and the timetable of that, they talk about what the world should do in the event of an outbreak of a coronavirus. Now let's put this in perspective, and I'm tying this into the whole Klaus Schwab thing. That event took place in October of 2019. Now, in late summer, early September, it was rumored, and you can find references to this all over the place, that people outside of the Wuhan Institute of Virology were getting sick. Some may have died, but if they died, they wouldn't tell you about it. But you can search engine it up, and you will find that around that time, late summer, late August, or early September, it looked like there were people that were getting very, very sick with symptoms like the Wuhan virus there in the city of Wuhan at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, there's another piece of interesting chronology, and that is about the middle of the month of September. On the Wuhan Institute of Virology website, there were something like 20 different virus genomes. I'm not one of those guys, but the mapping out of different viruses that disappeared from their website. They were taken down. They were just eliminated. On the same day, a large contract to completely revamp the HVAC system for the Wuhan Institute of Virology was enacted. So people are getting sick. Viruses and the trace of viruses as they would appear on a website are disappeared, and you're updating your HVAC system. Looks very, very suspicious, does it not? Looks like maybe some things are escaping into places they shouldn't be escaping to. Maybe it looks like there's some toxicology that's getting out of hand. But this took place in September. And I just played you the video of the Johns Hopkins and World Economic Forum and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation event that had, drumroll please, George Gao of the China CDC. Now, if people were getting sick in Wuhan, China, wouldn't George Gao be expected to know about that? If there were problems at the Wuhan lab, wouldn't George Gao be expected to? I mean, after all, he is the head of China's CDC. Let's just suppose for a moment that he did, because I think he did. But let's just suppose for a moment that he did. And now he's going to sit through a tabletop exercise. And what is he going to do? Is he going to raise his hand and say, hey, by the way, it might already be happening? I don't think so. Complicity on the part of the Chinese Communist Party. But yet, who was he hobnobbing with? So the Event 201 goes forth, and if you listen closely in the clip that I played, I'm not going to play it again, they say they had a huge online participation as well. Folks, just a couple of months later, we find out about COVID-19, and guess what starts happening beginning in early 2020? Everything that they talk about at Event 201 starts to happen like clockwork all over the world. Now, I'm going to try to find you something. Please bear with me. I wasn't able to, I temporarily lost it. So let me see if I can find it. Just bear with me. I want to show you something if I can. Okay, here we go. So there's Averill. And then these are all the people that are part of this. Let me show you this. I just decided to go to Amazon, and I wanted to know, when was Klaus Schwab's book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, when was that released? Well, there it is, July 9 of 2020. Now, the book is 280 pages. I guess if you're really inspired, you can write a 280-page book pretty quick. But isn't it just a kind of bit hinky? Isn't it kind of just a little bit suspicious that we're really ostensibly finding out about this pandemic in March, and by July, you've already got copies available on Amazon by early July? If I was conspiracy-minded, which of course I'm not, I'd kind of think that Klausy boy was either in on something, or he had something in the can waiting just for something to happen. So let me do this. Let me do this. Let me try to rein it back into where I want to talk about this school of leadership. So you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to look at some comments, and all right, I think we're there. So that's who Klaus Schwab is. So maybe I could put a bookmark right here and say, this is all information that's been sitting with, I think, many of us for a long, long time. But what I did not know until recently. Let me describe it, and then we will play a couple of clips to put some more meat on it. But before I do that, I wanted to react to this comment from Carol. Carol says, "Hi from Montreal. We just got the news of yet another curfew canceled. New Year's celebrations are forbidden." Well, Carol, I want to make this statement to you. That's because the playbook was written a long, long time ago. And this is my opinion, Carol. There are degrees of severity of the playbook, or there are degrees of adherence. You see, just yesterday, Mike DeWine, who is governor of Ohio, who might as well be I said it a year and a half ago, more than that, he's the poster child for Event 201. If the people at Event 201, if the Klaus Schwabs and the Bill and Melinda Gates and all of these people could have said, this is what we want a rhino Republican governor to do, Mike DeWine has done it, and done it in spades. And maybe on Saturday morning, we'll talk about the complete overreaction to Omicron. Mike DeWine actually said yesterday that the hospitals in Ohio are in the worst shape that they've been since all of this started, if you believe that. That's what he said. So the reason I'm tying this in with Carol's comment from Montreal is, Carol, if our governor could get away with it, he'd be doing exactly what they're doing in Quebec, because they are all implementing the playbook to the degree that they are able. There, I think I said that, and I think maybe that made sense. So here's what I'm going to do. In the comments here, I am posting right now. There it is. I'm posting a link. Now, if you were to go to a search engine, I use dogpile.com quite a bit. My friend Robert in Saskatchewan likes DuckDuckGo, but please don't use no Google. All right? But if you type in Klaus Schwab, School of Leadership, bam, it'll come up. And what'll come up first is the very link that I just posted. And there's a group here in America called the RARE Foundation, but they're the ones that pretty much broke this story just a couple of weeks ago, and I'd strongly recommend that you, if you have the time, go through and check that out. But now let's begin talking about the Klaus Schwab School of Leadership. I hope that wasn't too much buildup, but at any rate, here we are. When you go through the article, there is a German economist, I believe his name is Ernst Wolf. I might have the wrong last name, but he's done the research and he's done the finding out about this. And I'm actually going to play a clip from Rainer Fomick. Many of you are familiar with him, and he's interviewing this gentleman. And this is all going to be in German with subtitles. I'm going to play a little bit of it, and I'll get the gist of the subtitle, and then we'll talk about it. And here we go.
Ja, das ist eine ganz interessante Organisation. Also ich meine, die Frage, die sich wahrscheinlich ganz viele auf der Welt stellen im Moment, ist, wie kann es angehen, dass man 190, 195 Regierungen weltweit dazu bringt, in eine Richtung zu marschieren? Also da muss es ja irgendwelche ganz großen Netzwerke im Hintergrund geben. Und es gibt ja viele.
All right, I'm going to pause, and sometimes with StreamYard, I'm using their system here. It doesn't want to replay if I restart it. But what this gentleman is saying, many people have wondered, how could 190 or 195 countries just, at the drop of a dime, all react basically exactly the same in response to COVID-19. That's what he's talking about, and let's see if this plays. He's going to give some examples here.
Netzwerke. Also wir wissen ja, dass es sowas wie die
big foundations,
Stiftungen gibt. Wir wissen, dass es die
Atlantic Bridge here in Germany,
wir wissen, dass es die Bank für international
settlements,
Finanzsystem gibt, die Leute international
connects people internationally,
wir wissen, dass es den
Roundtable,
Industrialists gibt,
industrialists that provide templates for all the laws within the EU,
Dann wissen wir, dass es die
We
Group
know
of
of the
30
Group of
gibt, wo sich
30.
die wichtigsten
The
Zentralbanker
most important
immer wieder
central bankers
treffen.
meet
Dann die
again and
Trilaterale
again.
Kommission. Aber es gibt eine
Trilateral
Organisation, die
Commission
wirklich
is a
also
big
alles andere
organization, but there's
übertrifft.
one
Und das ist das
organization that
World Economic
surpasses everything,
Forum. Und
the
um
World Economic Forum. So I just wanted to give you a flavor. There are 3 videos in the article from the link that I just sent you, and it's worth taking the time. They're each about 16 minutes in length. But here's what I want to do, because I've burned a lot of minutes already here. So Klaus Schwab began the World Economic Forum in 1971. In 1992, he began a school of leadership, and you had to apply and you had to be vetted to be approved. I'm going to try to list as many names that attended that school as possible. Like I told you, my head is spinning, but I can tell you that Macron of France was one of the he was from 2017. In the very first school year, Bill Gates was one, Angela Merkel was one, and they go on to talk about, in the case of Angela Merkel, who was finally not the, what do they call it, prime minister or chancellor or whatever it is, the head honcho there in Germany. They were applauding that they described her as, not only was she a woman, but she was also from East Germany. But yet you look further and you find that Klaus Schwab introduced her to Helmut Kohl, and you get this understanding pretty much right away that, ladies and gentlemen, there are political leaders all over the globe that just all of a sudden they're at the pinnacle of power and authority. Why? It's because of their connections to Klaus Schwab's School of Leadership. Who else might that include? Well, that might include people like Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand. And so I'm going to try to find some of these. It's where are we at? Here we go. I'm going to, bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I'm going to try to just keep going, and that slide's not going to cooperate either. So we're going to have to, Everett's going to have to use his memory here. Let me just give you some names. Anderson Cooper, CNN. Jeff Bezos, Amazon. Richard, what's his name, Brandon? Who is that guy from Virgin Airlines? Once again, Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand. Leonardo DiCaprio. Mark Zuckerberg. Now, along the way, they also introduced this group called Young Global Leaders. And Young Global Leaders concentrates on people that are 30 and younger, but it's all part of the same gobbledygooky mess and same purpose. So like Mark Zuckerberg might be a young global leader, but he's still a Klaus Schwabite. The very beginning clip that I played, right in the middle, there was a panel discussion that was headed up by, get ready for this, Maria Bartiromo. She is listed as a Klaus Schwab alumni. I've been a fan of Maria Bartiromo, and she was hosting an event. I tried to pan it in so you could see it, so you could see the World Economic Forum logo in the back. Folks, the tentacles of this thing are pretty far reaching. And then there's all kind of names that, because of their international status, they don't mean anything to me, but they might mean something to you, but they don't mean anything to me. But folks, there's an awful lot of American names. So let me kind of paint a picture, and I'm just going to talk to you. I feel if I try to use visuals, just my state of mind, I'm going to get lost here. But I want you to think about this. I want to try to paint a picture. I'm going to paint you a verbal blackboard. Wait a minute. I'm going to chalk on a verbal blackboard. That makes more sense. So you've got Event 201 taking place. It is a sales pitch. But while it's going on, there are satellite 201s taking place all over the globe, virtually. And this ain't the only time this has happened. There's been other workshops that have been taking place. But it is sponsored by the evil World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. They're they're sponsoring it, but one of their disciples is also sponsoring it, and that would be Bill Gates. And everybody that walks out of that event 201, how many people are connected to young global leaders? When you go through this, ladies and gentlemen, you find out that, for example, 4 different ministers of health from Germany are Klaus Schwab alumni. Now, just start multiplying that around the globe, and you think about Klaus Schwab's alumni that are journalists. There's one prominent person, I can't recall the name, that everybody in the UK would recognize because they're extremely prominent in the BBC. And it helps you begin to understand that the tentacles of this thing, there's something like 10,000 alumni of this young global leaders from Klaus Schwab that are disseminated around the world. One of the things they talk about in the video is that it's not just European countries. There are a lot of Asian countries that have people that are alumni of Klaus Schwab. There are a lot of Africans that are alumni of Klaus Schwab. But take the continent of Africa, for example. The Africans don't go to African universities. No, they are sent to elite European and American universities, and then they are recruited into this occult, this cabal, this occultic-like collection of creepos. And so here's what you have. As Klaus gets his tentacles wrapped around him, what ends up happening largely in the continent of Africa, with rare exception, is you have disciples of the global elites that are running that country rather than the people themselves running that country. And don't think that that's so crazy sounding, because it's kind of happening right here in America also, isn't it? And so where do we go with there? Whew, man, I'd like to spend more time. Where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go? I'm just going to kind of peek through some of my. Let me try to find you a particularly creepy video, and maybe we can just close. Maybe we need to close on something very, very, very creepy. We'll close on something very, very creepy. Come on now. Like I said. Okay, listen, this is a David Rothschild who's an alumni. Oh, by the way, did I mention Leonardo DiCaprio? Is that creepy? Did I mention Charlize? Did I mention this? And I will find this picture before I close this program out. Dan Crenshaw, that creepy, patch-eyed congressman that hides behind his war status or his previous service status so that he can be a rhino. I mean, he's the head honcho rhino. Anyway, I want to play this for you. Hang on there. If you'll play for me.
It's past the point of talking.
Here we go.
We know historically that the global governance the sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to try, and with all the best intentions, it's very hard to actually activate. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing a lot of fragmentation going on in Copenhagen, a lot of different agendas pulling in different directions. And I think what we really need to see is people on the ground starting to actually act upon the low-hanging fruit and start to try and move on the solutions that we have at hand.
He's going to play it again. I'm going to let that play, y'all. Listen to what he's saying.
It's past the point of talking. We know historically that the global governance the sort of agenda to these issues is very hard to try, and with all the best intentions, it's very hard to actually activate. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing a lot of fragmentation going on in Copenhagen, a lot of different agendas pulling in different directions. And I think what we really need to see is people on the ground starting to actually act upon the low-hanging fruit and start to try and move on the solutions that we have at hand.
Okay, I wanted you to see that, and then I want to react to Lucy's comment. And folks, I'm going to bring this in for a landing. Because when I start to ramble, I kind of repeat myself, plus I say the same thing twice, and I'm redundant. But Lucy is asking, were there any Canadian names? Absolutely, Lucy. And guess who's at the top of the list? There's probably some names there, Lucy, that I don't recognize, but I'm pretty sure Justin Trudeau. And by the way, why I'm on the one of the reasons that I think I'm a little bit scatterbrained, I'll just admit it, I am, is I just saw on the cable news Ezra Levant, who is a hero of mine with Rebel News, was refused a mortgage, not because the finances were in impeccable shape. He was refused a mortgage from the Royal Canadian Bank because, and the loan officer said, we're trying to back away from opinionated media personalities. In other words, he's being Chinese credit scored right there in Canada. And to be honest with you, I'm really mad about that. But Lucy, before I leave your question, so there's Trudeau. So think about this. If you would go back and just watch those sessions, it'll creep you out, but it'll enlighten you. There's 4 of them on YouTube right now, Event 201. And then just ask yourself, Lucy, what would they want Justin Trudeau to do? And bam, there it is. He's doing it because he's one of them. I'll tell you, Lucy, who is also one of them. I apologize. I can't recall the name, but she is the head of Policy Horizons Canada. She's the future lady. She's the lady that has them write articles about my brain implant, and, my brain implant analyzed my dreams and said my life is getting too technical. So I need a forest day. I'm not making this stuff up. But she is a former employee of the World Economic Forum. And folks, when you think 10,000 alumni of just the young global leaders and you spread them out, and folks, they're hobnobbing. Who is that? That Jack, what's his last name, that is at the head of, is it Blackstone, the $9 trillion investment fund? When you can hobnob with people like that, you have access to influence, you have access to power, you have access to funds, you can make things happen. I think one name that I didn't say yet is Pete Buttigieg, is an alumni. Folks, it just goes, Charlize Theron, did I say all that? So there we go. And there was one more comment that I wanted to, somebody said something else about Dan Crenshaw, but folks, it really explains a lot. However, if I pulled the slide up, I'd lose you because it'd take me a moment to find it. There's a slide that I wanted to show you that has Jacinda Ardern, and did I say Tulsi Gabbard, because she's on there as well. But then there's a picture of Dan Crenshaw, but it says deleted. So evidently, Dan Crenshaw said, hey man, take my mugshot down from your website. But because of the Wayback Machine, people were able to find that. So I'm going to pause here just a moment and see. Here's one point that I want to make. This is occurring to me. One of the things that Reinhard talked about, and one of the things that Ernst, the researcher, talked about, was that a lot of these people, when you look at their CVs, I say resumes, but professional people say CVs. They'll say very often, there's nothing on there until they hook up with the World Economic Forum. And that's when they become somebody. And Reinhard Fomek made the observation to Ernst. He said, people like Jacinda Ardern, like there's nothing on their resume, and then bam, all of a sudden they hook up with Klaus Schwab and all this stuff happens, and they rule so tyrannically, so unreasonably. He wonders if that's intentional, so that people can say, this failed, and so now we need a one world global government. And I'm going to try to find something to close on. Here's what I'm going to say. These people, they're fear porner. Here's what they are. Let me use this analogy, and I promise I'm going to jump off with this. What this whole crowd is, they're really, there's really 3 divisions metaphorically. They are land tyrants, so they look around looking for land that they can tyrannize. I believe that's an actual word. They are land tyrants, they are arsonists, and they are fire extinguisher salespeople, is exactly what they are. They find an area that they want to tyrannize. I'm making that a word. That is now officially part of the English language. Then they start a fire. And while the fire is burning, they knock on the door and say, hi, I'm here to sell fire extinguishers. And all you have to do to own one of our fire extinguishers is sign the deed to your house over to us. It's almost like that, folks. They are purveyors of apocalyptic fear porn. They'll never stop doing that because that is the whole Hegelian dialectic thing, and then they have an answer that is you guys get it. Okay, I may have fumbled. If you want some clarity, click the link that's in the comment. Rare Foundation. Read the article. We're not done talking about it, but it connects an awful lot of dots, and what we've got to do is smoke. But here's the good news. Klausy boy, we are on to you in such a big way. We are on to you in such a big way. You talk in one of your videos, Klausy boy, about who can we trust? Can we trust government leaders? Can we trust academia? Can we trust young people? There's one person that you never talk about. Who can you trust, Klaus? And that's Almighty God. And that's the Lord Jesus Christ, because you ain't of his spirit, pal. But guess what? Those of us that are onto you, we are. And we win and you have lost. You are discovered. You are outed. Your whole grand scheme is coming crashing down because we, the people, serve a much bigger God than you can ever imagine. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to talk to you. Please go to OhioForFreedom.com and get on our email list. We're actually going to start really using that. And the streaming thing that I talked about is going to be a way we are not going to be Zuckerberged out of business. And so until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. There's a reason I said that. And God bless the United States of America. Good night, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.